Well, welcome to Check Up with Dr. Mark, and I'm Dr. Mark Vandermeer, and today I have with me Chaplain Tina McCalley. She is a wonderful woman. We are so glad to be in partnership with her and her ministry in Traverse City, Michigan. Now, for those of you who don't live in Michigan, all of us Michigan people, we put up our hand and say, yeah, I live right here or here. And Tina, I'm sure you do this too, and she lives right up here, if you don't know where Traverse City is. And God has been using her and her team for many years in reaching out to those who are incarcerated and those who return to society after they come out. So Tina, welcome to Check Up with Dr. Mark, and share more with us about you and your ministry and all that's happening with Keys to Freedom.
Well, thank you, Pastor Mark. It's really great to be here. We are a community. We are going into our 8th year, and we are now getting into some areas in our little community ministry here. We started out really small. We kind of grew just a little bit and a little bit more every year, but we are, what I like to stress to people is we're community oriented. We really like to bring things full circle. We've been in the jail for 7 years. I've been with the ministry for 6 years. I've been the chaplain since 2006, and I started jail ministry in 2005. So it was a seed that was planted when I was a little girl. Didn't even know it was planted, but it was planted, and God just kept growing it and growing it without me even knowing it. And one day he just sprouted and made it sprout, and I got trained as a chaplain, and I've been doing it since then. So
wonderful.
It's been quite a journey. Quite a journey.
Yeah. Now, explain to us what things do you do in the jail, and also that helps also to prepare people as they come out of jail, and also some programs that before we got on camera you were telling me about.
Yes, well, I'm actually in the jail. I'm the chaplain in the jail. We actually minister to the inmates one-on-one. We go and do rounds. We service the library, the book carts. We help bring them into the programs, the classes that we have. We have chapels, we have Bible studies. We coordinate all the volunteers that come through the jail, the faith-based volunteers, which is a lot. We have a good base right there that are very dedicated to coming in. Before COVID, they were all doing well, but it'll get back there. It'll get back there. So we prepare them through Bible studies and classes and talk to them and connect them to resources before they get out. We work with the programs in the jail. We work with staff in the jail. We all coordinate and complement each other in trying to prepare the inmates for that reentry into society. And then once they're out, we do our best to be there when they get out, to bring that full circle. And that really entails a lot, Pastor Mark. It really entails working with the families. It really entails working with employment agencies. It entails working with housing agencies, resources like addiction treatment services and counseling. We work with all of those agencies because you have to have your antennas out there in the community so that these people coming back in have places to go, people to talk to. And that's what we try to do.
What do you find essential as you're working with your volunteers and you're working with those who are in the cells, and also probably in different programs that you've defined? What are the essentials that our brothers and sisters who are on the inside need before they can come out back to the outside?
They need some hope. They need some hope that they're not going to be alone. They need hope that they can find somebody that will believe in them. And we're talking about building relationships here. As believers, we know we have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and we know that we can trust him and believe in him, and he's always going to be there. Well, that's the way it is when you're in jail. You are in a environment where it can be dark and there's not a whole lot of hope around there, and it can be lonely, and you can burn a lot of bridges before you come in. You'd be away from your kids, away from your family. So we try to make sure that they're not alone and that they have the essential resources really marked before they get out. so that when they get out, there's something there for them to go to versus just falling right back into where they came from. So that's our hope, is to help them do that. So that's an essential, is to have them connect before they get out. And I think the system here is starting to realize that as well, because they've ramped up their programming in that direction with that frame of mind. So during COVID, they've had a chance to really evaluate, what can we do? What can we capitalize on? What opportunities can we use? And we've been doing post-jail assistance, jail diversion initiatives. We're into housing now. We have a house. Keys of Freedom Ministries has a women's house. Now we're trying to figure out, how can we set up a sober station? How can we set up a crisis center so that instead of going to jail, let's take them here where they can de-escalate. Let's take them here so that they can sober up instead of getting themselves in trouble and then being hauled off to jail, because the jail is starting to realize not everybody needs to be there. Not everybody needs to go to jail when they do something wrong. So
yes, incarceration is not always productive.
not always the best thing. It's not, it doesn't help everybody. So
sure. Which also leads to my next question about assimilation. We look at how they come out, and we've been talking about this for years when it comes to recovery ministry and reaching out to those who are in prison, also in the jail. When they get to the door, and they also go from the door then to outside the door to then to the car to then all the different touch points. So what have you found have been the big barriers that have prevented our brothers and sisters in assimilating back into society well, and it brought them right back in?
The thinking, the process of thinking, the brain patterns that they've developed over the years that are sticking there and got claws, and it does. It just, they get out, they have these triggers. We're talking about at a lot of addicts, okay, and they have these brain patterns that have developed, and we have people from abuse, we have people who have grown up in broken homes, and those modes of thinking, that bias that they have, that things are a certain way, and they get comfortable in this abnormal norm, and it's safe for them, and they've developed these relationships with people that are just like them, who lead them back down that road of bondage. And so our goal, before they get out, which isn't always, possible, but before they get out, to try and get to that thinking and let them know there's another way, and try to steer them that other way. Now, if we do that, Mark, then we have to have somebody on the outside who can take them and continue them on that journey. And we do. Right now, we have a mentor actually that's working with a gentleman that came out a couple of months ago, that the jail actually asked us to, can you divert this guy? He keeps wanting to get into jail because he was homeless and he was afraid he was going to get COVID. So they asked us to keep him out of jail. So we set him up with a mentor, and that relationship is still going on. But here's the thing, is that relationship has to be committed. When you commit to helping an addict, or somebody who has mental problems, somebody who's been homeless for a long time, somebody who's been in bondage for a long time, life gets messy. And I think because believers know this, the church, whose Christ said, these are the people, these are the least of these are the ones I want you to help. I think that's why it's so important to have the church involved, to have the body of Christ involved, because we know about relationships, and you have to be committed. You have to bring it full circle. You have to stay with them. So that's not always easy to find.
No, it isn't. And tell us more about that. Help us to understand more about why you have found the church to not be so accommodating, and also more the NIMBY issue, not in my backyard. And we find that with actually church people, as well as with, people in the community, in the neighborhoods, as when they hear about, so-and-so is getting out, and we know who that is, and we don't want him or her in our backyard. Right. So, and NIMBY, of course, not in my backyard.
Yep.
So comment more, but help us understand.
Well, we had an initiative here, Safe Harbor. It's a homeless shelter that actually started in the churches. So every church would take a week or two. And we have a lot of churches in the area, so it worked out well. Somebody came up with the idea to actually build a building and house them all there instead of in the churches. So now the churches can come to the building. That's where NIMBY steps in. I don't want that building in my backyard. I don't want that building here because I take my bike here or I go for a walk here. And there was this big, communicative, platform where people were expressing their concerns. I don't want it in my backyard. So there's an example right there. But here's what happens when you do that, Mark. You ostracize people. You give them that stigma that they're somewhat not worthy. And now you have them in an area where all they get to see is each other, and each other is all in the same boat. Well, when you put them and integrate them, in with people who are doing well, people who are successfully making it, then they can look up to them and learn from them and maybe have that desire to go where they're going. I remember when I was a kid and they started the integration. Remember the integrating all the schools, the blacks into the whites? I remember I was mad. I was mad because now I got to go to this school when I can walk to this school. But look what that did. It caused a lot of openness, a lot of communication. It caused us to look at each other, not as a racial bias, but to get along together and to learn from each other. And that's what needs to happen. And this being, I don't know if it's that way in your town. I think it's that way in a lot of places, but this is a tourist town. So I think more of that mentality is here. And so the churches now, they're not having to really have them in their church where they have access to the programs, the people, the pastors. Now they just funnel in a few volunteers every week. And, it wasn't one of our better moments, but to set that up that way. But I think the churches have really started this frame of mind where let's just funnel the money into the ministry and let them do what they do instead of funneling the people in. And I think we've fallen short. I think the church has fallen short in that area. So.
Well, we're based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so for those of you who are watching and we're wondering about that, and we have found some of the same thing when it comes to Mel Trotter mission here in Grand Rapids. Not bad. In fact, it's very vital as far as what Mel Trotter does as an example. But of course, you have the money coming in from churches and individuals and corporations because they want to help and don't know how to help.
Right.
And so I think what we have found as a recovery ministry, and again, like what you do, Chaplain Tina, what we have found is in terms of networking with a number of different agencies to reconnect the church to the people. And that's been a tough deal. But more importantly, I guess as you have that brother and sister, as they do re-enter society, what accountability structure, what are some boundaries that do need to happen to help them succeed?
Well, you want to hold them accountable. You don't want to enable them, so you want to set goals for them. You want to have somebody there that can help them in that direction to reach those goals. So that's where the resources come in. But we kind of come in through the back door a little bit sometimes, Pastor Mark. So we developed our ministry to reach out to the families. So for instance, our Gifts for Kids program, every Christmas we have this get together, this Christmas party where the families of the incarcerated come in and we minister to them. And we find ways to minister to them because the family is broken as well. And if you can have the family healthy, if you can get the family on a road to recovery and restoration, then when that person comes out, now maybe you have that reunification piece of the puzzle going on, and there's some accountability there. There's some hope there. But as far as being in the system, you have your sobriety courts, you have your drug courts. Those work well. Those work well. And I think if we can keep them out of jail more and hold them accountable more through things like maybe just probation and reporting to counseling and putting them in rehab and addressing the mental illness issue instead of just popping a bunch of pills in them and sending them on their way, I think that would work much better. But the accountability is a key thing, and it's probably one of the most challenging things, is they have that frame of mind. I can do this on my own. I can do this my way. And just like the churches don't know how to help, they don't know how to ask for help. So that is a piece of the puzzle that's very challenging right now in our society.
Yeah. And how to help, we need some intentional action coming
Yes.
from the church to
Yes.
individuals. But
Yes.
often is there where tends to be the disconnect? How come sometimes, and I know you've got while they're incarcerated and the families are connected, but and thank God for that new women's program you've got going. Wonderful.
Oh, it's been blessed.
Yeah. But what are some disconnects that you're trying to address? And I know you're working hard, and we applaud you. What are some disconnects that happen as they walk out that door? And I know you got the family of origin, and of course the old friends, people, places, and things. We found that too as we continue to work, come alongside of our brothers and sisters who are in recovery. But how are you finding what define for us? Put it this way: define for us how a church could then get more involved, the church individuals as well as corporately, with that person at the door.
Well, I think I have this vision that there's nothing more effective than the church coming alongside the incarcerated on their journey when they come out. But the disconnect is the commitment. It's the education. It's the education. So if more people, I think, were in the church speaking and educating people that this is a lot more than what you think it is. There's a lot more going on here. There's a lot more help that's needed other than putting $1 in our bank account. Yeah. There's the education. I think that's where the disconnect is the education, and just educating them and changing their thought process to think we need to come alongside our brothers and sisters. We need to do what Jesus asked us to do, which is to help these people and to help them carry their burdens. But then again, Pastor Mark, there's another side to the disconnect, is the community resources. Okay. We have community resources. We have addiction treatment services. We have CMH. We have a bunch of programs, but those programs are not operating at their full potential. So if somebody comes out of jail, they're an addict, they relapse, there's not a whole lot of places for them to go at night. For instance, we got a call from somebody the other night, suicidal, needed help. So we called a few places, we called a number of places. Where can we take this person? Where can we take them? I mean, you're literally on the streets working with these people because they're homeless. They don't have a place to go. So housing is an issue. Housing is a real issue here. I'm not sure if that's the same place everywhere because we're a vacation town, but I know I hit that note quite often, but vacation towns tend to be different, I think. But housing is an issue, but having the resources around the clock, around the clock, because it doesn't stop with these people. They get out of jail, they're homeless, they have no place to go, so they're on the streets, or they go home, they relapse, they need some place to go to de-escalate, some place to go just to talk to somebody. And so our job lately, our goal lately has been to kind of ramp up those resources or create another one that is available more around the clock, more on a 24-hour basis. That seems to be a huge thing around here.
Yes. So as you do educate, and as we see, Lord willing, the church coming together, hopefully there can be more innovation. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say too.
Yes. Well, I want to educate the churches. I want to educate them that there's more to the story here. There's more that we need to do, and we need your help. So getting into churches and speaking I think is going to be my goal going forward, and just educating people, educating them on the lives that these people lead. So.
All right. Well, what's one word of hope that you can bring today to all who are watching, and of course those who are going to be watching this interview other times? What's one word of hope that you want to give today?
Believe. believe in the Lord, believe in what you're doing, believe in the word and its power, believe in the power of the Holy Spirit, believe in what God has called you to do. He will bring it to pass. He will get it done. He will lead you down the right path. He will answer those prayers if you just believe in him.
Mm-hmm. And when we do believe, there is hope. And also, our prayer is too that we can help coordinate and get people on the right seats in the bus and all go in the same direction as we see God reframing.
Yeah, God can do wonderful work in a person. Believe in that. Believe in what God can do for that person through you and me and lots of other people. So,
True.
yeah.
Because there can be more success stories
Mm-hmm.
as we engage and, of course, figure out the best way to help.
Yes.
I'll show us. So, well, thank you, Chaplain Tina, and Keys to Freedom. We'll continue to pray for you. Thanks for watching, everybody. On Check Up with Dr. Mark, where we check in with the Lord, check in with each other, and get a check up with the power of the Holy Spirit. Thanks. Be at peace.
Thank you.